The sky on the day of my mom Caddy's funeral was calm and clear. I thought I could see Mom off in peace, but then I ran into the woman who wrecked my life before. But this time, it will be different. I've learned from my mistakes. It won't go like it did last time. Just watch and see. I'm Rothy, 30 years old. Dad passed away when I was young, and it's been just me and Mom ever since. I always tried to be cheerful so Mom wouldn't worry about me. But single mother households face a lot of struggles. There were tough times. But my best friend was my rock. That friend is Cindy. Cindy and I are the same age, and she also grew up in a single mother household. Because of our similar situations, we've been supporting each other since middle school. Cindy is really a good person. If only she didn't have a bad habit. Cindy loves to steal other people's crushes. If I said, "That guy is really cute," she'd say, "Rothy, do you like him too? Maybe I should confess to him. It's not like you're dating him, right?" That was still bearable. After all, we weren't even dating yet. Cindy has always been the girly type that boys found attractive. If Cindy made a move, I would back off. Since middle school, whenever I liked someone, Cindy would like them too, and she would always end up dating them. But even I had a boyfriend when I was in high school. Sullivan, who was a year older, confessed to me. I kept this a secret from Cindy. There was no deep reason for not telling my best friend. I was just embarrassed. But she found out soon enough. Oh. Really? I thought you didn't have anyone you liked since you hadn't mentioned it. I was just embarrassed. But now we can both walk home with our boyfriends. Yeah, that's right, Cindy said with a smile. But soon, I found out the reason behind her smile. Every time Sullivan and I would walk home together, Cindy would join us. "Hey, isn't your boyfriend walking home with you?" "He has something to do. So, can I join you guys? I don't mean to intrude. I just want to be friends with Sullivan too." She would tag along wherever we went. One day, Sullivan called me out. "Rothy, I'm sorry. I'm going to date Cindy." "What?" "I'm really sorry. I thought of her as a friend, but I started feeling more for Cindy." Cindy also said, "Rothy, I'm sorry. I can't stop these feelings. If you could just forgive us, we could be happy," she pleaded with a tearful face. Even though I was shocked, if they both felt that way, I was just in the way. So, with tears in my eyes, I said, "Okay." And I forgave them. After that, only Cindy continued to treat me the same. I also tried to act normal around her. After graduating high school, Cindy got a job and I went to a distant college, so we grew apart. I unexpectedly met Cindy again about 2 years after I graduated from college and started working. At that time, I was engaged. My partner is a friend from college, who currently works at a trading company. I had brought my fiancé, Polly, to introduce him to Mom. After finishing our visit, we decided to take a break at a cafe, where we unexpectedly ran into Cindy. At first, I didn't notice her, but she called out to me. "Hey, Rothy! Long time no see. You haven't changed at all." "Cindy? Oh, long time no see. How have you been? You never contacted me after you went to college. I missed you." Sorry. I was really busy with everything after college." "I see. Well, I guess it can't be helped. So, who's this?" "Oh, let me introduce you. This is my fiancé, Polly. We came to see my mom today." "What? You're getting married? That's so soon." You just started working, didn't you? But we've been together since college, and I can continue working even after we get married. So we thought, why not now? I see. Cindy, while saying this, scrutinized Polly closely. She had a much more feminine aura than she did in high school. It seemed she knew exactly how to present herself attractively. She asked Polly, looking up at him, "What kind of work do you do?" "If you're getting married, you must have a stable job with a good income, right?" Polly responded, "I'm just in sales. But the company is listed on the stock exchange and is pretty well known." He handed over his business card. "Is that so? I had a feeling you were an elite just from looking at you. You're also really good looking," Cindy said, making a big show of talking to Polly. Listening to their conversation, as if I wasn't there, I felt a sense of déjà vu. That's right. Cindy always used to steal my crushes. This could be bad. So I said, "Shall we get going?" prompting Polly to leave. He replied, "Yeah, let's," and began getting ready to leave. "Oh, already? That's too bad," Cindy said. "Make sure to invite me to the wedding," she added, which put my mind at ease. But a few days later, my doorbell rang. When I answered, there was Cindy. Apparently, she had contacted my family and gotten my address from Mom. We used to be close, so Mom probably gave it to her without thinking twice. "I came. I happened to have some business nearby, and I didn't get to properly celebrate the other day," she said, looking around my room. "Is this room just for you, Rothy? Are you moving out when you get married?" "Yes, but..." "So, an apartment?" "That's the plan." "I see." I looked up Polly's company. The sales department there has an average annual income of around $80,000, right? That's amazing. I wish I could live in a nice apartment with a high-earning husband. Feeling a bit uncomfortable, I tried to change the subject. "So, how about you, Cindy? Any plans for marriage? Are you seeing anyone right now?" "I am, but his salary isn't that great." Our conversation wasn't matching up. I wasn't asking about his salary. "But you're lucky, Rothy. Your fiancé makes $80,000 a year, so you'll have an easy life." I'm not choosing my partner based on income. At that moment, Polly called, so we decided to have dinner together with Cindy. How did it come to this? Looking back, Cindy always has a way of maneuvering things to her advantage. By the time you realize it, it's already too late. As it once was, Cindy never misses what she aims for. Especially if it belongs to her best friend. A few months later, Polly suddenly said this to me. "Rothy, I'm sorry. I can't marry you." "What? What do you mean?" "I'm really sorry. I didn't want to say this, but I'm marrying Cindy." "What? Since when have you two been involved?" "When Cindy came over and we had dinner together, remember? She said she wanted to surprise you at the wedding, so we exchanged contact info. We met several times for planning, and once, she got drunk and ended up at a hotel. Since then, I'm really sorry." "It was just a mistake, right? You don't love me anymore." "I'm sorry. I do love you, Rothy. But Cindy is pregnant with my child." "What?" I felt the blood drain from my face. "Are you really sorry? We've been planning this wedding." "I'll cover all the cancellation fees, of course." I was such a fool. I should have thrown water at Cindy and run when I saw her. But Cindy, with her audacity, came to my apartment. I didn't want to see her. Rothy, I'm sorry. I really fell in love. And I'm pregnant. Please forgive me, she said, with tears streaming down her face. I was the one who wanted to cry. I don't want to see you anymore. Don't come here again. That's all I could manage to say. The only solace I found in my sadness was my work. I had always planned to keep working after getting married, but after the affair, I immersed myself in it even more. 5 years flew by in a blur. Focusing on my career didn't delay my chances of marriage. I got married 2 years ago. My partner is Bert, the legal advisor at my company. I was in charge of general affairs and I frequently interacted with the legal advisor. He noticed my hard work, and after a few dinners, he confessed his feelings, and we got married. Married life is joyful, and my career is still going well. I no longer care about what happened 5 years ago. But not everything was perfect. Mom, who enjoyed working and being alone at home, was diagnosed with terminal cancer. It was too late for treatment. I cried my heart out, but Mom smiled. I was happy to have you in my life. Thank you. I want to spend my last days surrounded by family. And said. So I spent as much time as possible at home, taking care of Mom until the end. Today is Mom's funeral. But I couldn't believe my eyes. Cindy was among the attendees. Why are you here? Well, Rothy, I heard your mom passed away. She used to be so kind to me, so I wanted to pay my respects, she said with a smile. Then, I saw her eyes gleam. She was looking at my husband standing next to me. She must have known something. And came here with a clear purpose. Oh, is this your husband? Rothy, you got married? Yes. This is my husband, Bert. How are things with Polly? Oh, we're breaking up. What? But your child must be around 4 years old now. Oh, well, I wasn't really pregnant. I just thought I was. What? I was really upset then too. I thought I was pregnant. Anyway, it's all in the past now. So, I'm single, she said, staring at my husband. What does Bert do? There she goes again. There seem to be quite a few women in the world who have a habit of stealing others' partners. However, it seems that only the woman in front of me would try to steal from the same person twice. And this time, it's not just a fiancé. It's my spouse. But I'm not foolish either. I'm going to confront her. Bert is a lawyer, I answered. Cindy wouldn't be able to resist hearing that he is a lawyer. What? A lawyer means he's got to have a high income, right? That's great. She still seems to be concerned about the salary. There are many lawyers with low incomes out there, but that thought doesn't occur to her. I replied, not as much as you'd think. Plus, the job is busy with all the procedures and stuff. While saying this, I looked to Bert for agreement. It may sound good, but it's not an easy job. But if he's a lawyer, he must be secure. By the way, is Rothy still working? Of course. I love my job, I replied. Oh, really? What about you, Cindy? I'm working temp jobs, but the pay is tough. It's hard being single. I wish I could find someone good. She said this while looking at Bert. I thought this was the start, so I said, well, I need to greet the other guests. And I broke off the conversation with Cindy, saying to Bert, sorry, but can you handle this? And I stepped away for a moment. I greeted the neighbors and coworkers who had helped Mom. When I glanced over at Bert, sure enough, Cindy was still there. As expected of the Queen of Theft. She never misses what she targets, even if it's someone's husband. Although it bothered me, I had duties to attend to. After a while, Cindy came over to me. Finished greeting everyone? I got Bert's business card and looked him up. He works at a big firm. So, his annual salary is around $200,000? That's amazing. And so what? I said, pretending not to care. Sorry if I steal him again. Cindy laughed. What? Steal what? I asked, knowing but wanting to confirm. Of course, your husband with the $200,000 salary. Really, Rothy, you have such luck. You always find great partners. Being around you, I get all the good men. Every man becomes enchanted with my charm, she said triumphantly. So that's why she came to the funeral. I looked her straight in the eye and said, Well, I don't think Bert will ever betray me. Humph. Then I'll take him from you. She smiled victoriously and went back to Bert. I watched as she immediately started touching him. Then she suddenly started crying. This seemed to unsettle Bert a bit. I heard later that she had started crying, saying, I'm sad that Rothy's mom passed away. I feel sorry for Rothy. It seems that she started crying over something like that. Cindy knew how to use tears to win over men. But don't worry. It won't work on Bert. I had a feeling it might, but my husband is different. I had told Bert everything about Cindy's attempts to steal. When we talked about marriage, I was open about my not-so-great past experiences. If it didn't work out, then it wasn't meant to be. Bert had already realized that he was the target. Some men might fall into Cindy's trap, even knowing it's not right. But Bert is different. Still, I felt sorry for Bert, being pestered by such an annoying woman, so I went to help. Bert looked relieved when he saw me. And when I asked Cindy, Did you enjoy the conversation? She looked frustrated. She must have realized that Bert wasn't interested in her. She can't have everything your way. Then Bert, tired of the situation, said honestly, Oh, Rothy is here, so I don't have to entertain you anymore, right? Yeah, good job. What? Not entertaining me. That's kind of rude, isn't it? Cindy said. I'm sorry. I know it's rude, but I just can't take it. Cindy, your smell is a bit too strong. I don't know if it's perfume or makeup, but since you keep touching me, the smell is rubbing off on me and it's making me feel sick. Bert's voice naturally got louder because he was so disgusted, and it seemed others could hear. Even though it was a funeral, there were people laughing. Covering his nose, Bert continued. Cindy, do you know how to apply perfume correctly? Just a little is enough. But you smell like you dumped the whole bottle over your head. Actually, Bert is a lawyer, so he seems nice at first, but he's quite sharp-tongued. I tolerated it because you're Rothy's friend, but I've reached my limit. I burst into laughter when I heard this. People who had been secretly listening also burst into laughter. Cindy looked around nervously, as if to say, what the heck? He has a sensitive sense of smell. Perfume is fine in moderation, but he can't stand strong scents. Huh? Cindy, you're wearing a scent that's not suitable for a funeral, and your makeup is too heavy. What are you talking about? Looking good is part of being a woman. Huh? This is a place to send off the deceased, not to go manhunting. Wearing such strong perfume here is a real breach of etiquette. How dare you? You can say that because you snagged yourself a high-earning husband and are all set. Look, I'm not choosing my partner based on salary. And if you think you can win over every man, you're just full of yourself. My husband would never betray me. Why not? Bert likes a type that's the exact opposite of you.
Huh? Well, sure, Rothy seems like a plain type we'd see anywhere. Unlike me, who has a woman's charm, right?
She's incredibly rude.
Thanks, but yes, I may look plain, but I'm a career woman. My husband likes serious, hardworking types. You, who are satisfied with a temporary job just to get married quickly, are not his type at all. In fact, he probably dislikes you.
Bert nodded next to me, agreeing.
What did you say?
Cindy had always managed to attract men solely with her looks, but Bert was different. He looked beyond the surface and appreciated the inner qualities of a person. It was because of this depth in Bert that I found the courage to take the step towards marriage. Therefore, I was confident that Cindy wouldn't be able to take him away from me.
But seriously, Cindy, today is my mom's important funeral. If you don't intend to properly see her off, then please leave.
With those words, Cindy bit her nails in frustration and left. After that, Mom's funeral proceeded smoothly, and we were able to send her off peacefully. There were a few minor issues, but I'm glad it ended without any major problems. Maybe it was thanks to Mom that I managed to get some sort of revenge on Cindy today. Perhaps she called Cindy here so that I could reaffirm my current happiness and let go of the past. Thank you, Mom. Later, something unexpected came to light. Apparently, Cindy was being sued for a significant amount of alimony by her ex-husband. Her ex-husband was, in fact, my former fiancé, and a mutual acquaintance shared his story with me. The pregnancy that had prompted the marriage turned out to be a lie fabricated by Cindy. She had made me believe it was a misunderstanding, but at the time, she had shown fake ultrasound pictures to convince him, later claiming she had miscarried. Moreover, the discovery of this lie was triggered by Cindy's infidelity. Since she was supposed to be pregnant at the beginning of the marriage, her ex-husband refrained from traveling or going on long trips to be considerate of her condition. He was a kind man, after all. But this consideration was unexpected for Cindy. Feeling bored, Cindy began an affair with someone else. She then claimed to have miscarried and used her supposed grief as an excuse to splurge on luxury items with her husband's credit card. Her husband, feeling sorry for her, overlooked these expenses. But it was all part of Cindy's deception, even buying luxury items for her lover. Her excessive spending habits raised suspicions in her husband, who installed cameras to gather evidence of her infidelity. During conversations with her lover, it was revealed that her pregnancy was a lie, deeply hurting her husband. As a result, he is suing her for compensation. Thus, Cindy was looking for someone who could lavish her with enough money to nullify the alimony claim and set her sights on Bert. But tough luck for her. Bert loves me for the hardworking woman I am and has no interest in Cindy, who is now obsessed with money. In the end, Cindy was heavily sued and ended up getting divorced. Now, she lives in a cramped apartment, working temp jobs by day and at a club by night, struggling with debt. She used to buy luxury items and enjoy her time with her lover, but now she's paying the price for her actions. It's a lonely end for someone who tried to steal another's happiness. I hope she finds a wealthy man someday. As for me, I continue to enjoy my work. My husband supports me, often cooking delicious meals and helping with household chores. And we enjoy a harmonious life together. We're expecting a child, but I intend to keep working even after giving birth. I know my husband will continue to support me. Hello?
What do you mean, hello? Where are you? What's going on? You better stop messing around.
The voice of my husband over the phone was trembling. He seemed very angry. What? What's got you so upset?
How could I not be upset? Today is our son's graduation. Where the hell are you on our son's graduation day?
Our son? I asked back, raising the end of my sentence, to which my husband shouted in frustration.
Yes, our son. Everyone else is here with their families for the ceremony. It's just me here alone. Isn't it normal for families to attend graduations together?
He seemed quite angry, but that doesn't concern me now. I continued without caring. I don't have a family. On the other end of the line, my husband gasped in surprise. Doesn't he realize what he's done these past 13 years? How he's treated me? That's fine by me. Whether he realizes it or not, I'll live my life the way I want. I won't let you have your way anymore. I am Katie, a 40-year-old housewife working part-time. I've been married to my husband Mason, who always says,
"Being a housewife must be nice because it's easy."
I'm jealous. For 13 years. I've been hearing this about being a housewife since the beginning of our marriage. But what shouldn't be forgotten is that originally, it was Mason who said, "I want you to be a housewife for the kids." Did he forget he said that? It's just so frustrating. Also, once the kids got a bit older, he started saying,
"Housewives are just unemployed parasites, aren't they?"
He treated me as if I was worthless. Mason's seemingly sarcastic remarks about me increased as the children grew. It got so bad that I started working part-time a few years ago, but then he mocked.
"It's just part-time after all."
Treating me the same. Time flies, and now our eldest, Richard, is 18, and Sean, the younger, is 15. I say our, but I share no blood with these two. They are my stepchildren. When I married Mason, the kids were 5 and 2 years old. Time has flown, but it hasn't been easy getting here.
I've been told having kids might be difficult for me.
When Mason asked me out, I nervously told him this. I've had irregular periods since I was young, and the doctor told me, "You won't have trouble living a normal life, but having children might not be possible." So, when I found out Mason had stepchildren, I was honestly happy.
These kids have had a hard time because of my bad taste in women.
Mason confessed with a guilty look after we decided to get married. The reason for his divorce from his previous wife was apparently her affair. Hearing that, I did my best to encourage Mason.
"It's not your fault. We'll be fine with the kids. Let's raise them carefully together so they won't feel lonely."
Katie, thank you. Mason's income is, to put it kindly, not high. I really wanted to work full-time too, to help support our family. But after hearing that, it wasn't possible.
"I think it's very important for the kids to have a mom at home. So, I want you to be a housewife and provide them with a sense of security."
All right, I understand. Managing on just Mason's income was extremely difficult. We revisited our expenses numerous times, cutting wherever we could. Entertainment, beauty expenses, and I even tried not to buy any new clothes. But I couldn't let the children feel any inconvenience. If anything had to be cut, it would be from my share. I truly believed that. At first, I think Mason was grateful, saying, "I feel bad for making you struggle, thank you." But at some point, Mason started to look down on me.
"You're not particularly beautiful or young, so why don't you try to improve yourself?"
It's embarrassing.
I do wear makeup. I take care of myself as much as I can. But I don't have as much money or time as before we were married. It hurts when you say things like that.
It was different from when I was single and only had to think about myself. As I spent more time and money on the children, the time and money I could spend on myself decreased. And housework? Mason used work as an excuse and didn't do any of it. I asked for help a few times, but he refused every time.
I have you handle it because I trust you. Besides, the kitchen is a woman's kingdom,
he'd say, as if I asked to be left alone with all the responsibility. The man I thought was manly and wonderful before we got married had turned into just a henpecked husband. The only solace was the children. Right after we got married, the kids were 5 and 2. Maybe if they had been younger, they wouldn't have been so shy, but Richard, in particular, had a strong rejection towards me.
I want Mom. You're not my mom.
Richard. I was close to tears myself as I hugged the crying Richard. But little by little, it seemed they began to open their hearts to me. However, an unexpected hindrance began to appear. And that was Mason. He should have been the biggest supporter, but I never thought someone so close could become an enemy. Probably, Mason couldn't stand that the children were closer to me than to him.
Katie, you've gotten fat, haven't you? That sloppy body. It's proof you can't manage yourself. Don't you kids ever become like that? It's good you're not related by blood.
He criticized my body shape and then went on to thoroughly criticize my appearance as well.
People are done for when they stop caring about their appearance. Since Katie is unemployed, she probably loses all sense of beauty because she doesn't meet people. You kids be careful not to become like that, you hear?
Faced with such remarks, I couldn't stay silent.
Can I say something? It's fine if you think that or tell me directly, but please stop belittling me in front of the kids.
I was concerned not just about my feelings, but the possibility of the kids picking up Mason's way of speaking. That was the last thing I wanted. Children who are still growing absorb everything around them, good or bad. Mason, their dad, gleefully looking down on me, their stepmom, was not something I wanted to show them.
What's that supposed to mean? You're just upset because you're being told the truth. Don't use the kids as an excuse.
Yes, it's incredibly unpleasant to be told that. But more than that, I'm really concerned about the children's futures.
Shut up. Don't blame others. What I'm saying isn't bad-mouthing, it's just the truth. It's ridiculous to say you can't speak the truth.
Despite calmly explaining my reasons, Mason became enraged and refused to listen from that point on. Instead, his bad-mouthing of me escalated. Furthermore, whenever I corrected the children's manners, Mason would almost always interject. Richard. Look here, you still have food in your mouth. Let's swallow before we talk. It happened when I casually pointed out that Richard was talking with his mouth full during a meal. From beside me, a loud sigh, followed by Mason grumbling unhappily.
Unemployed and without any income, yet you always act so high and mighty with your nagging.
It was the usual pattern. Mason looked to Richard and Sean, tilting his head as if seeking their agreement. It's not nagging. It's just correcting their manners so they don't face issues in the future.
You're going out of your way for kids that aren't even yours.
I felt a surge of anger. How could he say such a thing in front of young children? I was at a loss for words. Feeling pathetic. From that day on, I avoided clashing with Mason and started to watch his mood. I didn't want the children to witness any arguments between Mason and me. Mason was easy to read. If I praised him, he would be in a good mood. I knew it was the wrong approach, but I couldn't think of anything else. Divorce seemed like the easiest solution, but what would happen to Richard and Sean? I couldn't abandon them. So, making life as peaceful as possible was my top priority. Before I knew it, 13 years had passed, and here we are. The once young brothers have been thoroughly influenced by Mason. Their appearance aside, their way of thinking has become just like Mason's. Seeing Mason mock me in front of them, They've come to think it's normal to belittle me. They started to belittle me as if it was nothing.
Hey, wait a minute!
Richard called out to me, and when I turned around, he frowned and said,
"My friends are coming over tomorrow.
Can you go somewhere?
You know, it would be embarrassing if they saw you. If you were younger and prettier, we wouldn't have to deal with this hassle."
What a pain! I understand. This wasn't just adolescent embarrassment speaking. I could tell he genuinely felt ashamed of me. Such remarks had become repetitive, and I had grown accustomed to being hurt.
"Oh, and leave some money before you go out." "Did you iron the clothes I asked for?" "Ah, and the deadline for my college application forms is coming up. Take care of it."
Despite claiming to be embarrassed by me, he had no qualms about asking for favors. This behavior seemed inherited from Mason. Sean chimed in from the side as well.
"Hey, did you check on my tutoring?"
"Oh, and there's a club carpool tomorrow."
"Thanks in advance."
Richard and Sean returned to their rooms without waiting for my reply. To them, my fulfilling their requests was taken for granted, without a trace of gratitude. It's as if the concept didn't even occur to them. At dinner, the root of all problems, Mason looked at me skeptically and broached a subject.
"You should start earning some money soon."
"Excuse me?" Mason sighed dramatically, letting his shoulders slump as if to show me.
"Do you realize how much I've been supporting you? I've been lenient until now, but how many years has it been since you were unemployed? Have you given it any thought?"
I felt sick at his words and put down my fork.
"I'm not unemployed. I've been working part-time since Sean was in elementary school."
That's right. I was a housewife when the kids were younger, feeling sorry for them. But once Sean started school, I began working part-time in the mornings on weekdays. Despite starting part-time work, Sean frequently fell ill, and I often had to ask off work to care for him. When I had to take a whole week off, I desperately asked Mason, "Just for one day, or even half a day. Can't you look after Sean?" I thought he would understand since I'd been the one staying home. But his response was dismissively irresponsible.
"What? Impossible. I'm busy with work. You should know that's not feasible. Why should I anyway?"
I'm busy with work. This means that to Mason, my part-time job wasn't considered real work. I had understood his low regard for my part-time work, but being treated as unemployed was intolerable.
"I earn around $800 a month, though I do work within the limits that qualify for tax and Social Security benefits."
My defense against the unemployment accusation led not only Mason but also Richard and Sean to snicker derisively.
$800, wow. That's embarrassingly low. "Yeah, exactly. How can you even brag about that? You've got some nerve."
At their words, Mason snorted triumphantly, puffing his nostrils as if proud.
"Exactly what the boys said. Now that they don't need much from us, you should contribute more around here. You're the only one not related by blood. You won't be recognized as family like this."
Watching the three of them laughing loudly together, something inside me, that I had been holding together, started to crumble. I can't do this anymore. If this continues, I'll break. For my own sake, I can no longer push myself. Once I fulfill my last obligation, I'll leave this house. On this day, I firmly vowed. Sean's middle school graduation is tomorrow, huh? It's comforting to think he's graduating from middle school. A few months after I made up my mind, Richard had been accepted into university, and Sean was about to have his middle school graduation ceremony the next day. At night, after the children went back to their rooms, Mason, in a good mood, was drinking behind me as I washed the dishes. Man, to be honest, before marrying you, I was really struggling, wondering what to do. Mason, slightly drunk and in a good mood, began to talk incessantly. When Mom, who was looking after Richard and Sean, said she couldn't take care of them anymore, I was considering putting them into some facility. But then I luckily got married to you at just the right time. I really am lucky, huh? I had vaguely heard about this from Mary, my mother-in-law, shortly after we got married. Mason had taken custody of the children, but he mostly left their care to Mary. It must have been physically tough for the nearly 60-year-old Mary to take care of two young children. Eventually, Mary couldn't handle taking care of the two children and told Mason to take responsibility. That's when our marriage was conveniently decided. Really. From the beginning to the end, I was just a convenient woman for you. I'm amazed at myself. What's that? Are you sulking? Don't start with that annoying talk. Once both of them get jobs, we could go on a trip or something? That should satisfy you, right? I deliberately made noise with the dishes, pretending not to hear, and ignored Mason's talk. After finishing the dishes, I sat opposite Mason and just kept pouring him drinks. Here, drink up. Tomorrow is Sean's big graduation day, after all. Hey! That's right. You can be thoughtful sometimes, huh? Mason, delighted, turned red in the face, drinking glass after glass. In the end, there were so many bottles and cans of alcohol that I had no idea how much he had drunk. The next day, I was on the train, feeling refreshed. I wonder if the graduation ceremony has started by now. I murmured to myself and gazed out of the train window, enjoying the moment. When was the last time I felt this peaceful? Glancing at my mobile phone, which was on silent mode, I saw a massive number of missed calls. Checking them, most were from Mason. There were also a few from Richard. From the look of these missed calls, they must have been in a panic this morning. Normally, Richard and Sean are morning people. Even if I don't wake them, they would come downstairs on time. So, by morning, one of them should have woken up Mason, who was asleep at the table. I had also left several alarm clocks around Mason out of mercy. So, I don't think they were late for the graduation ceremony because they overslept. Well, the problem starts from there, doesn't it? I left behind the suit, tie, socks, and everything else Mason was supposed to wear for the graduation ceremony in the closet and left the house. To show mercy, they were all cleaned or freshly laundered. Normally, that should be enough for anyone to get ready on their own. But Mason isn't normal. For the past 13 years, he has relied entirely on me for care. He probably wouldn't even know which suit was appropriate for the graduation or which one to wear. You'd normally prepare the day before, wouldn't you? Certainly, or rather, without a doubt, Mason wouldn't do that. Even drunk or passed out, he knew I was there to deal with the aftermath. What must they have thought when the person they relied on suddenly disappeared completely? I'm curious about their reactions. Were they confused? Maybe they were furious. Either way, it doesn't concern me now. After a while, as the train arrived at my destination, I disembarked with my luggage. Passing through the gates, I turned off my phone's silent mode, and immediately it started to ring. It was Mason. Hello? What do you mean, hello? Where are you? What's going on? You better stop messing around. Mason's voice through the phone was trembling. What? What's got you so upset? How could I not be upset? It's Sean's graduation today. Where the hell are you on our son's graduation day? Our son? I repeated, with a rise at the end, prompting Mason to shout in frustration. Sean! Everyone else is here with their families for the ceremony.
It's just me here alone. Isn't it normal for families to attend graduations together? And you didn't even prepare the clothes. If Mom hadn't come, it would have been a disaster.
Facing such misdirected anger and unfair victimization, I replied calmly.
I think it's your way of thinking that's really problematic to rely on your mom without any resistance at your age, and for such a thing. What did you say?
Surprised and stumbling over his words. Mason was clearly very angry, but that's irrelevant to me now. I continued, unfazed.
And what do you mean by family? What? I'm saying that.
I cut off Mason's words and declared,
I don't have a family.
On the other end, Mason gasped in surprise.
I've never felt treated like family by any of you these 13 years. That's not true. What are you talking about? Just by eating together, sleeping, and living together, doesn't that alone make us family? Being regularly belittled about my appearance and physique, sometimes mocked as an unemployed parasite. More than anything, you exploited me like a servant, and now you speak of family? What are you even saying? Aren't you the fool here?
After speaking quickly, there was a short silence, then the call ended. A few minutes later, Richard called. The timing was too coincidental. Likely, Mason had conveyed something to Richard.
So you fought with Dad?
You went too far.
Dad was really angry, you know? If you apologize now, Dad will probably forgive you, so just apologize and come back home. Otherwise, dinner will be late.
Holding my head in my hands, I was astounded. I wonder how Mason had described our conversation to Richard. But Mason and Richard believe without a doubt that they are not at fault in any way. And at their core, as long as they are okay, that's all that matters to them. That's why Richard made the comment he did. They don't even question why I left the house and abandoned Sean's graduation ceremony. Instead, they're worried about their dinner.
Me apologize? Why? And for dinner, you all could just take care of it yourselves.
My statement seemed to upset them. Richard's tone grew harsher.
What's that supposed to mean? That's irresponsible, just leaving like that. You were being fed and taken care of by Dad. Do you understand that? I've thought this for a while now, but you should be more grateful.
Mason's words come to mind.
Who do you think you're living off of?
I've heard that line many times. Mason's mantra has seemingly seeped deep into the children as almost a curse. It's egregiously outdated. Do they understand that this attitude will lead them to struggle in the future? I let out a small sigh and told Richard.
You and Sean really are just like Mason. Huh? What's that out of nowhere? Of course we are, we're family.
Yes,
well, you might want to be careful then. You're not suited for modern marriage.
Richard let out a weakened. What? Again. Just like Mason, he lacks self-awareness.
What? Just because you're upset, you're spouting nonsense?
The similarity extends to their voices trembling when upset. Anyway.
I have other things I want to discuss, so I'll be making a final visit soon.
Could you tell that to Mason?
Wait, a final visit? What do you mean? Wait, hey.
I can't wait.
Goodbye.
After hanging up, the phone kept ringing persistently, but I decided to completely ignore it until it eventually stopped. A month later, I was visiting Mason's house for one last settlement. As I rang the doorbell, Mason appeared with heavy footsteps.
Katie, you came back. I knew you'd come back. I believed in you.
Mason, whom I hadn't seen for a month, looked somewhat haggard. Perhaps it was due to his disheveled appearance. His clothes were wrinkled and dirty, and his complexion wasn't good. Above all, he exuded an air of utter exhaustion, completely lacking in energy. As he approached me, Mason tried to grab my shoulders in desperation, but I quickly shrugged him off. "Don't touch me, please. We're not family or anything anymore."
What? What are you saying, Katie? We're just separated for a cool down, aren't we?
No one ever said that. Mason made that up, conveniently for himself. It's almost impressive how he comes up with such convenient notions.
I was so happy thinking you had finally come back.
That's not it at all. Quite the opposite. I came here today to completely settle things with you.
Settle?
Mason asks me back with a strained smile. I nodded firmly. I want a divorce. Let's thoroughly discuss alimony and the division of assets in the divorce proceedings. Entering the living room, it was empty. No sign of Richard or Sean, who should have been off today. Where are the kids? They're each in their rooms. They shouldn't know you're coming. Do you want me to call them now? That's fine. It's not like we're having a pleasant chat. What's about to start is a divorce discussion. No need to let the kids hear that. Yet, I wonder how in just 1 month of being away, the house has changed so drastically. Clothes were strewn about everywhere, and the table was littered with finished plates and plastic bags. The sink was so overloaded it was impossible to tell what was underneath. Doing dishes here would be impossible. Looking across the dirty room, I avoided the items on a chair and sat down. Shall we begin? I wanted to settle this as quickly as possible. As I sat down and approached the table, Mason suddenly bowed deeply with incredible speed. Stop it. That won't work on me, and it doesn't change how I feel. Mason kept his head down, shaking it.
Please, somehow spare me from the divorce. In this month, we realized how important you really are.
Mason raised his voice. The old me might have been persuaded by this alone. But over the years, I've grown stronger. Such child's play won't work on me. Right, once the slave was gone, there were no more domestic workers to help in this house.
Domestic worker?
Mason averted his gaze. I smiled back at him cheerfully. The housework you've always mocked. It was tough, wasn't it? Full of tedious and bothersome tasks. I thought you and your clumsy, impatient selves would never manage.
What?
Mason glared at me sharply. Excitedly, his nostrils flared as usual.
Getting all high and mighty just because I'm being humble. We could do housework if we weren't working. It's just because we're busy with jobs. You wouldn't understand, you only worked part-time.
Right, I don't understand. Especially not the troubles of someone who remarried, pushed his children onto his spouse, and cheated with another woman.
Huh?
Mason's face, which had been red with rage just moments before, suddenly drained of color, turning pale.
Cheated? What are you talking about?
You thought it wasn't obvious? I knew everything. Mason's lips tremble as he continues.
If you knew, why act normal all this time, and now divorce?
It was all for the kids. Ever since the doctor told me, I believed I couldn't have children. Marrying Mason allowed me to become a mom to Richard and Sean. Mason's cheating, his verbal abuse, the kids' mocking behavior. I can't count how many times I thought about divorcing and giving up. Yet, I endured because I loved the 2 young ones. So, I decided to persevere until at least Sean graduated from middle school. No.
You're lying.
Turning towards the voices, I see Richard and Sean, frozen in shock. Their faces paler than Mason's. Mom, I don't want anything from you. I don't expect apologies. Instead, from now on, I won't be around. There won't be anyone to help you for free. Richard and Sean awkwardly closed their mouths. I turned back to Mason.
You're still cheating, aren't you?
Well. His hesitation to deny it amounts to an admission. If you agree to divorce now, I won't demand alimony from her in court.
Otherwise, I'm ready to confront her and even visit your workplace.
What'll it be?
Which do you prefer?
Mason ponders deeply, sweat beading on his forehead and dripping down his cheeks.
Are you really not coming back?
His eyes, looking up at me, are brimming with tears. No. Absolutely not.
She can't do any housework. She doesn't work either. Marrying her, there's no benefit.
Mason pleads in panic. His thinking is flawed, and he seems unable to realize it.
What benefit? It's time you learned. You shouldn't seek benefits in family. Tell me, what have you given me? All I remember is suffering. I'm sorry. Don't demand from others what you lack yourself.
My years of resentment might have poured into those words. Mason screams and agrees to the divorce. Signing the divorce papers I brought without argument. The divorce was finalized smoothly. The alimony was agreed to be paid in installments. After the divorce, it seems his mistress quickly dumped him.
He was attractive because he belonged to someone else. Once divorced, he's just a single old man.
Even Mason, usually so confident, was notably downtrodden by this. Being called unattractive and without merit by both his ex-wife and mistress was a severe blow. Though it's just the truth, he can't seem to accept it. This shock has led to continuous mistakes at work. The kids seem to have changed somewhat. Especially Richard, who's desperately trying to change. The reason being, his first ever girlfriend dumped him, saying she didn't want a boyfriend so outdated. While I have no intention of getting involved anymore, I hope they can change if possible. But given their current state, it'll be a tough challenge. I've started a new life near my hometown. For the first time since before my marriage, I'm living alone. Taking this as an opportunity, I quit my previous part-time job and started looking for full-time work near my new home. It might be challenging given my age, but living alone on a part-time income is too idle. I've been overworked, but being idle doesn't suit me. If I can't find full-time work, maybe I'll consider juggling part-time jobs. Or perhaps I'll find a new hobby. That's what I'm thinking about these days.